In this video, we are going to talk about the nucleus. The nucleus is the organelle that contains nearly all of your cell's DNA. The mitochondria contains a tiny bit of DNA, which is why we say nearly all, but most of your genes are in the nucleus, and each cell has one nucleus, and it is usually the easiest organelle to see in the cell under a microscope. So this is a light microscope image of human cheek cells, and the nucleus is the dark blue dot in the middle. This is a light microscope image of onion cells. So the dark red-orange dot in the middle of each of these cells is the nucleus. One thing I want to point out here is that the singular form of the word is nucleus, N-U-C-L-E-U-S. The plural form of the word is nuclei, N-U-C-L-E-I. So one cell has one nucleus, many cells have many nuclei. This is the nucleus from the diagram of the cell that we've been looking at. So it's the big purple ball, and we are going to talk about all of the different structures that are shown in this picture over the course of this video. So we said that the nucleus contains nearly all of the DNA for the cell. So the nucleus is where your genes live, and the nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear envelope. And the nuclear envelope is two membranes side by side. So each membrane is a lipid bilayer, like the lipid bilayer that makes up the cell membrane on the outside of the cell. So the nuclear envelope has two membranes put together, and there are special protein channels that go all the way through both of those membranes that are called nuclear pores. The nuclear pores regulate the entry and exit of molecules into or out of the nucleus. So for example, let's say, so your DNA is really important to the cell, right? If your DNA doesn't work, then your cell can't make all of the things that it needs to make. So you really want to keep things that could damage DNA out of the nucleus, so the nuclear pore might be able to keep those out. But you also are making things in the nucleus, like you're copying the DNA into RNA that you're going to use later to make proteins in the cytoplasm. So you need to be able to get things like that RNA out of the nucleus, and that's the job of the nuclear pores. Nuclear pores are really neat. They're complicated protein complexes, tons of proteins put together to create this fancy channel that regulates what comes into the nucleus and what goes out of the nucleus. And if you look at them under a microscope, they look like those pretty little, almost like flowers that you see on the right. That's this complex that you see on the left. If you were to look from directly above it, look down on it, it looks like what you see in that microscope image on the right. And so we've got our nuclear envelope that has our nuclear pores that go through it. We also have on the inside of the nuclear envelope, we've got a structure called the nuclear lamina. And the nuclear lamina almost looks like a net or a mesh, and it's kind of a stiff structure that helps give the nucleus its shape. So remember, membranes are kind of flexible and wobbly, and so you want to have a kind of a rigid structure on the inside that helps keep that nucleus from kind of collapsing in on itself, I guess. It's making me think of when you do paper mache and you start with like a wire structure on the inside. It's kind of like that. It's that interior structure. And inside of the nucleus, you have your DNA. Your DNA is organized into chromosomes. So one long DNA molecule gets wrapped around proteins that are called histones. We will get to chromosomes and DNA and all of those detailed structures later, so we're not going to really go into it here, but just if you have seen karyotypes, for example, pictures of all of the chromosomes in the cell, those chromosomes, those little X-shaped chromosomes that you see, live in the nucleus. And one other structure in the nucleus to be aware of is the nucleolus. So this is just another diagram of the nucleus, and what looks like an egg yolk in the middle is the nucleolus here. So the nucleolus is inside of the nucleus. It's not a separate membrane-bound organelle or anything like that. But if you look sometimes at a microscope picture of the nucleus, you can see a dark spot within the nucleus, and that's the nucleolus. And what that part of the nucleus does, kind of a region of the nucleus, is it helps make the parts of ribosomes. We'll talk about ribosomes in the next video, but ribosomes are the little protein RNA combination machines that help make proteins. So again, so here's the parts of the nucleus. On the outside, the nuclear envelope, which is a double lipid bilayer. There are nuclear pores that go through the nuclear envelope to let things in and out. There's the nuclear lamina on the inside of the envelope that helps give the nucleus its structure. There's the DNA in the form of chromosomes inside of the nucleus. And then there's the nucleolus, which is the specialized part of the nucleus that helps make ribosomes.